Something you'll never forget.
It was like a wave from hell. It was jet black, and there were these, the boats and everything getting swept away by the waves just coming down really, really fast.
Miyako is the city that had the highest wave. So I was there on that day. I'm Matt Ketchum. I'm, 14 years deep into my adventures in Japan. That's over 2 stints though. I was here 2009 to 2016. Then I went to Seattle, and then I came back 2019 until now. I do a lot of stuff. I feel like I understand what I do and nobody else does. But it really comes down to, 3 things, like rock and roll, business advisory and development, and then real estate. Most, if not all of the things that I work with are probably what would be considered, what's the polite way to say it? Like, off the beaten path. So I run a company called Akiya's KK, underneath which I operate a number of different brands. Prior to that, I was the executive director for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that, I was a technical project management over at a cryptocurrency development company in Seattle. Prior to that, I was doing government relations here in Tokyo. Prior to that was market research. And prior to that, I was an English teacher, right? The whole time as well, I'm a guitarist, so I've been playing in bands for, 15-ish years now? I'm currently a rhythm guitarist for a band called Worship Pain. And I do, work-wise, that's the kind of stuff that I do. And then I also am quite heavily invested in a number of projects down in a place called Yugawara, which is near Atami. A lot of my work involves rural areas, so I'm not focused really on Tokyo all that much at all, especially real estate-wise. That's just red ocean. I mean, if you want to get into like big fights with big sums of money, like Tokyo's a great place to do business. If you want to just like get it done, not Tokyo, as I've come to kind of refer to everywhere else that is not Tokyo. It's a lot easier, but again, that kind of goes back to sort of how I conduct my business, which is very kind of non-standard. Yeah, if you really want to get your hands dirty on like new, nascent, novel, unborn things, like really kind of bleeding edge sort of stuff, I find that it's easier to pursue those things outside of Tokyo than it is in. Tokyo, I think, is maybe not unique, but it's definitely kind of in the upper echelon of places that are so culturally, economically, financially dense that I refer to it as like cultural gravity. And so like the escape velocity, it's like a neutron star, right? Like once you get stuck in its gravitational well, like you can't, unless you go fast enough, and that you need a lot of energy to do that. And so once you kind of get within, the orbit of Tokyo, it's relatively easy for just like a normal person to sort of just get, oh, okay, this is where I'm going to be. And they just kind of float around there until I guess they die or something. But that's not to say that they don't do interesting things. But yeah, Tokyo kind of sucks you in and tells you what to do. And I mean, that menu that Tokyo gives you of what you can do is a pretty extensive menu. It's not a very limited one. It's a prescribed existence. Honestly, one of the metaphor that or not even metaphor because it's a real thing, is like I love mass transit, love trains. They're so good. When I went back to the States, there was a bunch of shit that I was just like not happy with, but probably one of the definitely top 3 ones was where the fuck are my trains, right? Like Seattle. Well, Seattle's even worse because they have trains. They're just garbage, right? I would much rather just not have trains at all, or have good train. Don't make trains that are shit. That's like, you know, dangling something in front of people and be like, oh, look at the nice thing, but you can't have it, right? That's cruel, right? But the Oedo line is the one that always comes to mind, in that it's super deep underground. It's all man-made. It's all concrete. It's all fluorescent. You have zero agency when you're in the underground trains. Like, you can't wander. It's impossible. You just have to go with the flow. Cities are good at providing resources. They're very good at efficiency. They're definitely good at making money. They're good at a lot of things, but they do require some level of like, what? Well, I play in a metal band, so maybe it totally sounds fine. Like, sacrifice of the human, right? Or of humanity, right? In order for this machine, because that's really what a city is, for the machine to work, we can't be as, what? Well, yeah, quite literally, we can't be as natural as you can be out in, you know, the forest or, you know, playing in the ocean or whatever. And so I think that's a very interesting, I really try to apply that a lot to my business practice, which is to say, you know, remember or recognize or appreciate even the human character of who you're doing business with, the kind of mechanical structure of the business practices that you're using to conduct that business, and kind of the balance in between. I think it's very easy to get lost on one or the other. Getting lost on the human side of things, you end up becoming an MPO and you can't get anything done. You go super far on the business side of things and you become Goldman Sachs, right? Nobody really likes either of those things. Well, maybe that's a bit extreme, but you see what I'm saying? Like, finding the nice balance in between, hey, making good money and also being like properly human in whatever business practice it is that you're kind of conducting is surprisingly difficult, I think.
Earlier, you said you were an executive director for Canadian Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
But you're not Canadian.
Nope.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Originally Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I left when I was, 18? Then I went to... Actually, the reason that I'm in Japan is because when I was 14, I had very little interest in... Right around then, like, Pokemon was coming out. I was definitely watching Pokemon. And just getting into, like, punk rock. And how did it go? Kind of the long version is a friend of mine who sat next to me in math class, and somehow, I still to this day, I don't remember how we made the connection. We were talking about Slowdive's album, Souvlaki, which is like a beautiful album. And somehow that transitioned to, there's a hardcore punk band called Converge. This is 2001. They had just released Jane Doe, which is just not a seminal. It is like the album that changed hardcore punk from what it was before that to what it currently is. Like, it's an amazing, super complex, just like outstanding piece of art. And through that album, I started going to like punk shows in Pittsburgh. Specifically to this one venue called the Mr. Roboto Project. I don't know why they called it that, but that's what it was called. And I think it was like only a few concerts after I started going, all these Japanese punk bands started coming through Pittsburgh, which is weird because Pittsburgh's not, like, I guess it's technically a major city, but it's definitely not a big one, and definitely isn't on like the international touring circuit. To this day, but it was every summer vacation for my entire high school career. Somebody kept booking Japanese punk and metal bands. I still don't know who it was. I figure it was, what was his name? Anyway, there was just like all this Japanese punk and metal in my life at that point for whatever reason. And it was really good stuff. And so that's how I got interested in studying Japanese. At the same time, my high school also started offering Japanese lessons, which was really serendipitous. Just like, oh, good timing. kind of thing. And yeah, it was because of Japanese hardcore and punk in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that I live in Tokyo now. So thanks, Roboto Project. So let's see, we're trying to get back to the executive directorship, right? And so then I moved here. Oh, right. And so then I moved here, I went to college, studied German German philosophy and Japanese history, so I was like 100% the Axis. And then I moved to, but that was a shit decision because a double major in philosophy and history gets you absolutely nothing on the job market once you graduate. But I spoke Japanese, and so what do? I moved to Japan and teach English. Originally, so I applied for the JET program, and I got waitlisted. And I don't know. So I was impatient. I'm still impatient. Right? And I may be a completely different person because of this decision, but I was impatient and I didn't want to wait for JET to get back to me and say, because they told me, hey, we got, like, you're in. You gotta wait like 6 months, right? Because there's no spot, like, we want you, we just don't yet have like a spot for you, so you can just like hold your horses. I said, no. And so I decided to go with another company who is extremely judicious, so I'm not going to mention their name. And they gave me a choice when they first hired me of, what was it? It's like, we'll give you a place that we want you to go. And you can say yes, or you can say no. Or rather, what was it? Like, tell us the kind of place that you want to be, and we'll try to find that for you. We'll give you the first choice, and that'll be a choice. You can accept it, or you can say no. And if you say no, then the next one that we give you, like, no choice, you're just going. And so the first spot that they gave me was down on Chichijima, which is in the Ogasawara Islands that are like a 27-hour ferry ride from Tokyo, like population 2,000, I believe. Beautiful, gorgeous, Galapagosian kind of spot. I still want to go there a lot. And at first I was actually a little bit excited about it, but then I started thinking population-wise and running some numbers on like the dateable female population, and came up with some really bad numbers and said, okay, not for me. And so I said no. And I was allowed to do that, but the next one that they gave me, I had to go, which was a place called Miyako in Iwate, on the coast of Iwate, and this is November 2009. And so I was teaching there for a year and 3 months, and then the 3/11 earthquake and tsunami happened. And Miyako is the city that had the highest wave, right? And I lived quite literally on the coast. There was my apartment, there was the street, there was the tsunami wall, and there was the ocean, right? And so I was there on that day, right? And yeah, and I write about it quite often. And so all that happened, but let me get to the executive directorship and then we can revisit this. All that shit went down, got to Tokyo, blah, 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 blah. There's a bunch of like NPOs, NGOs, people trying to help. The Canadian Chamber was very active in activities in Tohoku, like reconstruction stuff. And I ended up doing a lot of work with them over the years. And so they kind of knew me. Well, they did know me. They do know me, right? And so even though I was American living in Seattle, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce was like, you know what? Executive directorship. Get over here. Like, because relationships. But yeah, the tsunami thing, that was that was major.
Let's get into that. So where were you exactly?
Let's see. I was hungover in my apartment.
Time.
Yeah. Well, no, it was actually really good because I was supposed to be. So I was at my apartment where the wave was, call it 15 feet. Which is like, I mean, we got wrecked. We got, like, I literally have from the Japanese government an Isai Shomeisho, which just says like, oh yeah, we recognize your place of residence was absolutely destroyed by a tsunami. That was a Friday, right? 3/11. Thursday night, I get a call from, so I had two schools. Monday through Thursday, I was at Miyako High School, Miyako. And every Friday, I was at Miyako Kita Koko. Miyakita was in Taro. And so my apartment, where I lived, where I was when this happened, the wave itself was like 15 feet, but it definitely rose more than that, like just the water level afterwards. In Taro, because of the way the bay was shaped, on that Friday, I was supposed to be there. In Taro, Wikipedia just updated it recently. It's a little bit lower. It used to be 39.9 meters. Now it's like 37.4. Completely leveled. And the night before at around 8 p.m. though, I got a call from the woman that I worked, who was like my co-teacher or whatever at Miyakita, saying, hey, we just finished testing. Like, there's nothing to do tomorrow. Like, just take the day off. And so that was like 8 p.m. Of course, I call my boys up. I'm like, yo, let's go get drunk. And so we stay out till 3 a.m. or whatever. And have a good time and everything. And then, yeah, we all sleep over at my friend Seiji's house. He drove me back at like 11 a.m. I took a nap. I woke up at like 1 p.m. I made an omelet and I was watching Network, 1977, I think, the I'm Mad as Hell and I'm Not Gonna Take It Anymore movie. And I was like 27 minutes into it when like the earth started shaking. Also too, like 3 days before that, there was a pretty big one, and that one freaked me out. Like I remember running downstairs, because I was also, for some reason I wasn't at work then either. Why was that? Anyway, it was in the afternoon, and I ran out of my apartment, because my landlords lived on the first floor, and we had dinner like 2-3 times a week. Great people, the condos. And I remember running down on probably like March 8th or something. This was like a 7.2, I think it ended up being. And like kind of knocking a little bit panicky at the condo's door. And Mr. Kondo, Hiroshi-san, it was like 2 p.m., just in his underwear. And he was just like, yeah, what do you want? And I was like, oh, that was like a big earthquake. Should we run? And he's just like, no, dude, don't worry. Like, you'll know. Like, just chill.
You'll know.
Yeah. And so, yeah, on 3/11, well, no, I didn't know because I waited, because like I had been a little bit like desensitized to it a few days before. And so I waited like, I don't know, a minute, but then shit really started falling. So I like ran out, didn't think to take anything with me, of course. This is why you always have a go bag. Straight up, you would be the dumbest version of yourself if and when that like disaster emergency hits. I don't care who you are or how smart or dumb you are, you're gonna be even dumber. Like, don't leave it to chance. And yeah, so ran out, because we had like a gangplank, like an outdoor, like, second story place that you walk, sidewalk thing. Ran down that, but the neighbors, I got drinks with the husband. It was a husband and wife who lived there. I figured he was at work because it was a Friday, but his wife's like a housewife, so I like knocked on the door, and she answered looking all shocked and just kind of like, what do I do? So I grabbed her arm. It's like, come with me if you want to live. Sort of thing. And so we ran down to the first, or not the first, like ground level. And keep in mind, like, this is where, Forte. So just to let you know where we were. Like this is that major super famous video of the tsunami where it comes. That's it. That's where we were. So where were we? Oh,
I visited an elementary school there. Now it's like sort of like a site. Tribute and stuff.
Yeah, which one was that? So this is where, like, here. That's where my apartment was. Jesus. Right? And then, so that's the Pacific. So again, you can see, like, it's a funnel, right? So it got, like, pretty big. Although Tato is up here somewhere. Is that it? It's a little bit further north. But yeah, we were hanging out. Probably like literally right here at that bus stop. And there's the seawall. Not even thinking about tsunamis though. Like that was the other thing of like, I remember taking out my like flip phone. Oh, and it was too, like buildings were like, they were like chomping. Like they were cracking open and then closing. Kind of like a big mouth, like a concrete mouth kind of thing. And yeah, we get down to ground floor, and yeah, I remember just looking at the building. So looking at the buildings, looking this way and not looking that way, right, towards the ocean. So I wasn't at all thinking about tsunamis. I was thinking, holy shit, that was like a real big earthquake. So much so that I took out my flip phone and just like there was like some rubble on the ground. And it's just like, oh, I distinctly remember taking a picture of rubble on the ground when Hiroshi-san from the day before in the underwear taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around and he says, no, now we gotta go. And I said, what? He's like, the tsunami. And then I could hear the sirens, right? That were kind of, it's almost like, I mean, granted, this is maybe a little bit over the top, but in, you've seen Saving Private Ryan? Mm-hmm. And when there's like the explosions, and then you can't hear anything, but you're looking around, and then the sound kind of comes back in. It's very much like that. And so there were sirens, and then this actually to this day I'm really kind of unhappy with, I guess is maybe the word. So every week they'd run like tsunami drill, well, not even drills, just like test announcements, which is Tsunami Keiho, right? The difference between the weekly test announcement that everybody is used to and doesn't listen to at all because they play it every week and it never means anything. The difference between that and holy fucking shit, this thing's gonna wreck you, get the hell out now, is Tsunami Keiho. That's the only linguistic difference. Right? And granted, like there was the earthquake and stuff, so there's like other signals that like, oh yeah, I should probably run. But that I don't think helped very much. But anyway.
Even for the Japanese people.
Yeah, it in my mind potentially even kind of lessened the strength of the earthquake. Like, oh, if it was a big enough earthquake to that, like if it was much easier to hear like orally, the difference between Tsunami Keiho and like motherfucking big ass Tsunami Keiho, right? Then people said, oh, it was that big of an earthquake? Gotcha. Let's go. Whereas it's possible that maybe they're hard of hearing or you miss the right? And just think, yeah, it's just a normal Tsunami Keiho though, so like why should I run? Sort of thing. But anyway, yes, we ran up the hill right here. Yeah, ran up this way over. Where'd it go? Zenninji. Where's the temple? There's a temple up here. That's it, but like, oh, here we go. Yeah, the Zenninji. So we ran up here, but we got to about here, and then Hiroshi-san's wife, Kazuko-san, as we're running with, it's the two of them, their little dog, John, and me. Like, running up the hill. And Kazuko-san turns to me and says, "Did you get your passport?" I said, "No." And so, of course, I ran back down, which you're not supposed to do. And straight up, this is where I learned the value of the go bag. Because I got in, this is my second chance to grab stuff. Like, I don't know, a knife or food or water or anything. I got my passport, so that's good. I got my Motorhead bag out there. I didn't put anything in it, I just got the bag. Which is useful. Like, could have been more useful though. I remember I got in like my touch iPod that had no battery charge, and I did not get headphones. So I just had a dead iPod, which is useless. And like nothing. Oh, a coat, I think. Did I? Didn't really get much, any that mattered. My second chance. I had 2 chances to get good stuff, and I didn't use it. Especially getting a bike would have been great. Anyway. So I run back up the hill, and we're standing, like right around, probably like right here. There's like a ledge. So this is a pretty steep hill. And we turned around. I did not know about this suck. Like the tsunami suck that happens before the tsunami hits. And so the entire bay was just drained. There was no water left, which was the exact opposite of what I was like, wait a minute, you said tsunami, not anti-tsunami. Like, what's going on here? Of course, it makes sense, but again, you're just like in panic or shock mode. And like straight up, I don't know, like I had seen, what is it, Kurashige, the famous tsunami ukiyo-e print. I'd seen that, and like, that was pretty much the extent of my knowledge about tsunamis. So I didn't understand the physics of them at all. And yeah, we just kind of waited for, we only had 10 or so minutes before it came in, and like in through here. It doesn't look like this. It looks like that far out, right? Like probably, out in the sea. But like once it comes into land, it's just like a black bulldozer. It's like it's not pretty. And yeah, so we basically were just like up and like, I remember thinking it looked slow though. Maybe it's just the size. Like it's actually like really fast, but it's also gargantuan, so it just like doesn't look fast. And I also remember thinking at some point like, oh really, this isn't so bad. It got way worse. And then you'd see like the cars started floating in, and then it just got like progressively bigger. So there was like cars, and then trucks, and then small boats, and then the larger fishing boats, and then buildings, and then larger buildings, and then just everything. And the seawall didn't help at all. It just completely smashed through that. It smashed through and then it just went over as well. So like, no, maybe it bought like a minute or something, which is a decent amount of time, I guess, but it really didn't hold very long. And yeah, like that was kind of like, this story goes on for hours and hours. I don't know how much of it you want to hear, but like there's a lot to talk about there.
It's really up to you. But evidently that didn't traumatize you enough. I mean, you stayed, right? I mean, from what I heard, a lot of people left. They went back home.
Yeah, I mean,
they didn't even give notice. They're just
I mean, like I had friends up there. I had a band and everything. And I don't know, like to feel like I'm a responsible citizen of the world or whatever the phrase is. I mean, like once you pull a dude out of the water in his underwear who's crying for his mother from the roof of his now collapsed house and drag him up a hill while bumping his head against a bunch of rocks. Like, you're a little bit invested. You know, like I remember the same day, it was like this probably, it hit it, what was it, 317, 245 is when the earthquake was, 317 or so is when it hit. So probably around 5 p.m., the water finally went away. Well, subsided anyway. And so we're staring down, and there's more sirens. There's all of the car alarms are going off. There's these very strange patterns of bubbles in the water that I didn't understand. And then somebody said to me, "Oh, that's all of the gas lines have burst." And so they're just, now we can see the gas grid via the bubbles because they're all busted. And there's this guy. It's the most pathetic fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. He was in the water still. And I guess he must have been in his house and somehow just like not gotten real lucky. I don't know how he escaped. But he's just like treading water, I guess. And this is March in Tohoku. Like, it's cold, yo. Again, he's not wearing much at all. And just in the water, you got the sirens, you got the car alarms. There's just people are screaming. Just like all that noise going on. And then this pathetic soul down in the water just screaming at the top of his lungs. And he's like 50-something. Just like, Okasan, Okasan, right? And so I remember me and Hiroshi we're, you know, 10 meters up. And like I was saying, it's pretty steep. And at this point, like the road was just totally fucked at this point. Like we couldn't do anything with that. And so we're just kind of like stuck up on this hill, staring down at this guy who might drown in a few minutes, screaming for his mom. And fortunately there were, I think it was 3 firefighters who were in our midst. There were like 20 or so of us who were stuck at this temple, 2 or 3 of whom were like off-duty firefighters. And there was this real precarious path down the hill. So they went down first. And I think they got, I don't know, some big pole. I don't know exactly what type it was, but they found a pole. And they get up on top of this big red roof, collapsed, of course. Like the building itself was collapsed, but this roof was floating in the water. They get up on it and, you know, put the pole out, and they drag the guy onto the roof, and he's still screaming. And then me and Hiroshi-san, we had a bunch of blankets, because it was a temple. Fortunately, we were staying at a temple. They got like futon blankets and stuff. And so we grabbed a bunch, I don't know how many, and managed to get ourselves down the hill to this guy. We just wrapped him in blankets and made it like a makeshift, stretcher. And talking about dead weight sucks. Dead weight's the worst. You can't do anything with it. And so it was like, Hiroshi-san I was 24, Hiroshi-san was, 62. Guessing the firefighters were like in their mid-30s. You know, they were probably kind of, but yeah, we're all in a disaster zone on like very uneven, uncertain like ground. And we're just dragging this guy up this tiny little path with all these like large stones. And I remember watching us bump his head as we're like, and he's at that point, he was just out. Like he had passed out or like gone into shock or whatever. But we get him up the hill. There was a house. Which one was it? Probably this one, I want to say. That happened to have and the water got up to like here. So we were super, like, I remember watching it rising too and just being like just quit it. Like, stop now. But that's all you can do. Like, you straight up, you have zero choice. And we couldn't run any further, right? Like, that was it. We were like backed up against the wall. So we drag them into here, or here, somewhere around here. And they happen to have like a kerosene heater. And yeah, I don't know his name, never saw him again. We just dropped him next to the heater and like went off and kind of did our other stuff. And then went back over here. At that point, the fires hadn't yet started, but there was a little bit of just like a reprieve, I guess. And I kind of remember just like gazing out over the destruction. And at that point, you couldn't even really understand what you were looking at. All you could really understand is that you didn't know what you were looking at. And at some point, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. People I didn't know. I'm guessing they lived like here or something like that. And they didn't know that, I'm guessing they didn't know that I was with the condos and the temple, but they were worried about me, and so they kind of pulled me into their place. They had some hot tea, they had some blankets, they had a kerosene heater. I went in there, just like shut down for an hour or something, didn't know what to say, couldn't like, just like, ugh, words don't work. Somehow got out of there, and then it was dusk, and then the fires across the bay and the industrial district over here had started because, again, the gas lines had all burst, but this is an industrial area. And so, like, what? Man, you just wrecked our entire town with a wall of water, and now we got fire? Like, what is this? It was strangely, bizarrely beautiful. And like the juxtaposition of all of it. There was some snow too. And then I have a difficult time kind of like putting the timeline together. I think the snow was a little bit earlier, but it definitely snowed that day. But then finally like dusk or like night hits. And I guess the fires went out, and the sky had just cleared, and all of us were just standing out there like meerkats, just like stargazing at this gorgeous night. Because I mean, no electricity anywhere for miles and miles and miles, right? And so it's just like pure cold winter night sky with the stars shining down. And then, we went into Zenninji, the temple. There were about 20 of us, 3 kids, myself. By kids, I mean, I think they were all under 7. I believe it was 2 families. So that's 3 plus 4 plus me makes 8, plus the condos makes 10. And like I said, the condos were 60-ish. There were the temple priests who the condos were friends with, which is why we went there in the first place. They were probably in their 60s. And then there were like 6 to 8 people who were in their 90s. And so another really bizarre and interesting experience was, so no electricity, we're all freezing, there's barely any food, we've got some fire in the irori. And so we're sitting around that, eating what was like, just like, it was just like umeboshi and a little bit of salmon. like, oh fuck. We're fucked, huh? Kind of thing. And then the older people started talking about how this is like the war. And like, because they were alive during it. Right. And so they were talking about, that experience and stuff, which was really interesting and kind of intense. And also, like, I'm an American, so like it's a little bit awkward. Right. So that happens. But then we also had this crank radio, and that's when we first heard about Fukushima. Right. And so again, it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ. We just kept getting hit by the tsunami and then the fires and then, no food and being homeless. And then, nuclear disaster. I think I made a joke about Godzilla. I can't remember if I actually did. But, yeah. And so, that was the first day. There's 6 weeks more of that.
And your place obviously got totaled, and
Yeah.
the only thing you had with you in terms of your worldly possessions was your passport and nothing else.
Like my possessions,
Yeah.
like things that I owned, and wasn't because like people gave me coats, but those weren't my coats,
Right.
Yeah, Mike. I had like Chucks on, like Chuck Taylor, fucking sneakers on, man.
Best shoes for.
Worst shoes you could possibly imagine. Yeah, like that bag, my passport, my wallet. I think I had a hat. Yeah, I had a hat. I have, actually, well, it'd be hard. I'll send it later, but it's like it's one of those pictures that like pisses me off. So the next day, I went out and was like surveying the damage and found our house. And so it wasn't washed away, but it was like total, like destroyed, right? Like the first floor was completely washed out. And then the water damage on my floor got about halfway up. And so, like, I mean, physically speaking, it was still standing, but not like at all structurally sound. There's another story about just like going in there, but that's a few weeks later. But so I'm there. The reason I remembered I had a hat is because I remembered this selfie that I took in front of my totally destroyed apartment in this just mess of a garbage zone. Just kind of being like, hey guys, or whatever. And I posed that and somebody got on my case about it. It's like, hey, you're being disrespectful. Or what? I was like, yo, bro, fuck you. I'm here on ground zero making smiles. Like, you know, you want to talk about disrespectful. Like, shut the fuck up. Sort of. But it was one of those, like, maybe a little bit contextless sort of instances. But, yeah, that was, yeah, the second day was interesting. And I mean, it was all interesting. But then there's a whole, because we were stuck there for 3 days, and then I had to go scavenge for food. And that, yeah, yeah, dude, like it goes on and on. And that was straight up like, what is it?
Apocalypse.
Yeah, but also The Wicked Witch of the West. What's that movie with Dorothy and the Magic Shoes and Wizard of Oz? Oh, yeah. Yeah, like in the beginning where the house just like lands on the witch and then her feet curl up. I was walking through muck, like straight up to my waist, and also had to crawl over entire stories of buildings that had been deep displaced, and sat right in the middle of the road. Like, where did this second story of a house that I've never seen before come from? Like, why are you in my way? Sort of thing. Yeah, and then. Was that day 2? That was day 3. Day 2, yeah, we still couldn't get out. Day 2 sucked. Day 2 was day 2 totally sucked. Day 1 was fine because you're just in shock. You don't feel anything, right? Day 2 sucks because then you're like, oh,
It's the reality.
Oh yeah. Oh, this isn't good. And like staring, I remember the feeling of just like despair, I guess, dropping into my stomach, looking at where like my apartment had been or, you know, was ostensibly, and just running through my head like, wait, what did I have in there? How much did all of that cost? Let's see, I had this many suits and I had a computer and I had a guitar and I had an amp and I had this, like, $60,000, like, oh, how will I ever buy that again? Like, I don't make that much money right now. Like, and just like, oh no. How do I even leave if I wanted to run away from all of this? Well, number one, we're just surrounded by garbage that I can't crawl over, so that won't work. Even if I did, then we've got miles of more garbage. The roads are broken. The trains are broken. There's no airport here. There's no Wi-Fi, or the cell towers are destroyed. Can't talk to anybody. Like, oh my God, that was awful. And then something, just on the third day, it was very, to this day, I'm a pretty Spartan guy now too. And I think it's very much due to having lost everything. But I distinctly remember on the third day, looking out over, again, like surveying, the landscape, and at a Buddhist temple, and being like, you know what? That's just shit. That's just stuff. Like, what do I got? What do I need? Am I cold? No. Do I have a roof? Yeah. Do I have some friends around me? Yeah. Do I got fire? Do I have a little bit of food? Uh-huh. Got all those things. I'm good. It's fine. Like, don't worry about that. Right? There's bigger things to worry about, like getting more food. But yeah, there was definitely a very get rid of your materialist mindset kind of moment. And then after that, tried to go out and find food, but then there was finally went and found some food. Well, wait, no. I got to town, what normally would have been like a 40-minute walk, took me like 5 hours. And we couldn't go down. We still couldn't go down. So I had to actually crawl up over this mountain and then down onto this, what is that, the 45. So yeah, I went like up to here, through the woods, further up the mountain to the peak, then down, and then I came down through here, and then walked from here. Well, I don't know if you could call it walking, but crawled or something. Where's Miyako Station? Oh. So went over, where's the Lawson? Is like somewhere. Here. That's where I went. Because this was the first spot that wasn't just like done. Right? And so I get there to that Lawson, and there's a line out the back, and I see actually two of my students from the Taro place. And I'd been hearing murmurs of, oh my God, Taro was really bad. I was like, what does that mean? This is fucking awful. How could it be worse than this? So I see two of my students there, and I'm like, oh shit, you're okay, great, good. Like, what's up with Taro? And I remember them just saying, mo nai. I was like, what is that? That doesn't, what? How can a town just like disappear? And what is it, like a week or 2 weeks later, the first news crew that got into Miyako was an Irish team from, I think it's RTE. They had heard about Taro too, and so they ran, because nobody else spoke English, and they're like, oh, you, yes, Matt. Went up to Taro and finally got to see Taro, and yeah, it looked like it had just been bombed. Like,
what used to be a town called Taro. And as you can see, there is absolutely nothing left.
Like, I distinctly remember the only thing left was a single Lawson sign still standing there. Everything else was just leveled. Right, just completely, 100%, absolutely just evaporated, right? But of course, talked to them, they were okay, Monai, go into Lawson, everybody is wonderfully orderly, very little panic, everybody's looking kind of sad, maybe hungry. There's no food. I think there was probably like one or two things left that nobody ever buys, and so they still weren't taking it. And so then I was like, well, shit, I just spent 5 hours trying to find some fucking food. It's 5 p.m., it's getting dark. Took me 5 hours to get here in the daylight, so better start going back. And then I get to, where is it? There's the park. Oh, is that it? Yeah, right here. So my friend's shop is here. And we do like obon and stuff in this park, Nishikoen. And so I was walking back down here, and I went by Seiji's place, and I didn't see him. And I was like, I remember feeling super disappointed. Like, damn it, I thought like they'd be home and have some food or something. And so I keep walking because I don't see him. But then I hear from behind me him yelling at me. I'm like, oh my God. And so then they take me in. Well, I tell him, like, look, I got to get back. I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. It is 6 p.m., disaster zone time. There's another old tsunami keiho happening right now after an aftershock. So, like, no, you're not going back to the temple. You're staying at our place. We'll figure out what to do tomorrow. And from that tomorrow, which is day 4, until, what's today? The 20th? 21st?
22nd.
Until 6 days ago, 14 years ago, so April 16th, 2011, I lived with 7 other people who had been homeless out of this building right there every day, picking up a shovel, pickaxes. Sometimes we used doors and ran around the city rescuing people and sometimes not rescuing them and finding bodies and digging out rubble and basically being a first line responder. And fortunately enough, we were able to get a bunch of food back to the temple a few times. And so that was good, I felt, because that was like my responsibility. But yeah, I spent about 6 weeks as like a frontline responder in the shit, right? And that's how my professional career started here in Tokyo, because 6 weeks later, I got the company I was working for, found out that I was alive, got me down here. I immediately started working for an art gallery that was raising funds for Tohoku stuff, and from there, my career blossomed. So if it wasn't for the tsunami, if it wasn't for me calculating how many women I could possibly date on Chichijima, 27 hours by ferry south of Tokyo, I wouldn't be here today. Yeah, so punk rock to that, to this, and like.
What's the story, man? Was that the first time you saw a dead body?
No, it wasn't. But the first time that you see rotten, like, corpses, and the smell permeates, and one of the most, I don't know if traumatic's the right thing, but like fearsome qualities that I can remember is there's X's and O's everywhere, except when there aren't. And an X means that it's been checked, and there's nobody in there. By nobody, I mean there's no bodies. An O means there's a body in there. But if there's no marker, then you don't know what you're looking at. Right? And so it's, I don't even know what to call that, but it's
freaky, man.
Yeah, it's the unknown. It's really the, like, if you not even open that, because most of the time there's like, opening the door is not the phrase that you would use for like how you would enter someplace. You'd like crawl through a window or whatever. But it's like the worst kind of gamble. You either find nothing and it's fine, or you find the rotten corpse of what life was, what you are. Right? Those are the only two things that you either get nothing and you're still in a disaster zone, or you will literally see what you're going to become in 60 years' time or whatever. Right? Like, the unmarked houses for the real menacing ones. That's what they were. They were menacing. Right? Yeah. What else? like a friend of mine, I won't name names, but his mom lived real close to me, like right around here, like the worst possible place to be. And this is like the worst. So like when I arrived at my friend's spot was almost exactly the same time that my friend whose mom, let's just call him John, whatever. So John's mom lived like right here. John worked over here, and John's girlfriend worked like somewhere around here. And so the earthquake hits, and the two of them say, oh, we gotta go get mom. So all three of them, well, both of them go here to convene on mom right when the wave hits. There's no tsunami wall here. It's flat against the ocean, basically, right? It's a wharf. This is where the boats dock. Zero protection. And so this came out days, if not weeks later, because John was hard up. I remember, like, you don't know what people look like when they've seen that. But weeks, and at least a few weeks later, it was more or less the story is like, he got mom here, he got his girlfriend here. It was like like massive adrenaline, right? Doesn't matter, gets hit by the wave, right? Mom's gone immediately. He somehow still has his girlfriend in his other arm. He grabs onto a roof, gets himself up, and then has like the Jack and Rose Titanic moment with his girlfriend slipping away into the water, right? As he's just stuck on this floating roof, right? And so I stayed with him for, all 6 weeks and stuff. And that was just like, I still to this day can't imagine. He's married now, he's got a kid, like he's gotten on with his life and stuff, but it was just, how do you go through that? And those are the stories that don't really get told at all about. I mean, I feel like the tsunami, I mean, we're a few weeks past the anniversary, like 10 days? 12, 13 days past the anniversary. It's meaningless to me now. The coverage of it is so generic, and rarely, if ever, do they actually feature like the stories, like John or myself or anybody else. Sometimes there'll be like a reporter interpreting the story for the audience, but that's still not, here's the person talking. Here's the actual, from the horse's mouth, the story, right? And that's really frustrating, actually, because I'm really vocal about it. And if I wasn't, I'd probably be a lot worse off for it. But Tohoku especially is like a really Muguchi, quiet. Well, I mean, if you get along with them, then they're extremely boisterous and like, Jesus, won't you ever shut up? Right? But until you get to that point, they're kind of stiff upper lip people. There was that Ghosts of the Tsunami book that really wasn't very long either, was it? I think it was pretty, 120 pages or something. That was just, again, interpretation. I don't know of anybody who's gone, meaningfully gotten distribution, I guess? Or I hesitate to say respectful, but proper coverage. Honestly, kind of like what you're allowing me to do now. I appreciate it. It's the strangest thing. Those stories they almost don't exist anymore. And by that, I mean, it's like the other day I wrote about this, and I actually had a really interesting experience using AI to generate the images of the pictures that I wasn't able to take. It's not like I took that one selfie. It's not like I was running around taking a bunch, right? There's other things to do. And I didn't have a charger, so all the, like those. So the only people who actually know what happened. I ran the numbers actually. The coast of Iwate and Miyagi and Fukushima at that time was probably somewhere around 300,000 people. So ostensibly, the maximum number of people who saw and experienced firsthand the tsunami was about 300K. And the world is about 8.76 billion people, which means that maximally, I ran the numbers, it's like 0.000006% of the population has firsthand experience with this type of thing. We don't have very many images, right? Most of which were taken anyway were from like helicopters and not from us, like us on the ground. Most of those images are kind of lost to time anyway, or haven't been given, again, like public distribution. Most of the stories that those images are tied to by the people who were there have also not been given the ability to, I don't want to say vent, but, talk, right? And so the thing that really grinds my gears about every year on the anniversary of the tsunami is that you get all these sob stories, all of these people. And look, Tokyo was bad. I'm not saying that people didn't have a bad time here. You totally had a bad time here. Totally different experience. And so every year with the tsunami and, remembrances and things like that, it doesn't do it. Well, it's not even that it doesn't do it justice. And this is a very difficult point to make. It's that I have a very difficult time thinking that it's even something that can really be communicated. Because experiences like that, it's not just the tsunami, in Thailand as well, there was a really major one. There's, disasters all over the place. But the interesting thing, strangely enough, about just disasters and like disaster trauma is it's alienating in that no matter what you do, you can't, like words, just doesn't matter what language, doesn't matter how big your vocabulary is, like just words don't suffice. They can't. Right? And so that's one reason why the AI experiment was actually really interesting for me, because like images are far more kind of visceral, right? And even if you can't, say something, maybe you can draw it or whatever. And that's a very frequent, tool that psychiatrists and psychologists and whatnot use. The AI thing was like, I need to pursue that a whole lot more. But just like the selfie that I took, I also got some shit from people once I posted that online. People were like, dude, are you seriously using AI to talk about the tsunami? It's like, yeah, because I was there and I couldn't take any fucking pictures, you piece of shit. And I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And so, yeah, the difficulty that I think mass media, and even just people, because people are empathetic usually. And when they see disaster, oh, it's okay, or pat them on the back, or people like to help out generally. Also got to say, during this time, holy fucking shit, have I seen top form humanity. Man, the things that we did for each other. It's amazing, right? I've never had more hope for humanity than in those darkest days, right? But again, that just doesn't, it's, how do you say it? It's almost like a little kid who's trying to help by hitting against this thing with its little plastic hammer and saying, hey, look, I'm helping. No, just stop. It doesn't help. Just sit over there and watch me, right? That's sort of how it feels. And I think it's really sad because there's a lot of really good, I don't know if that's the right word, but powerful things that came out of that are very near lost because of the way that, and I'm not like trying to cast blame on any single institution or anything like that, but just kind of the way the things played out in how, I mean, really just kind of how media works and broadcast media works. The way that it's been communicated is, I kind of want to have nothing to do with it, because it honestly, every year, all it does is remind all of us of just like a real shit time and how you don't know what you're talking about. Right? Whereas if we were able to tell the story, that would be far more cathartic.
Why do you think that that's the case? Why do you think
That
they're not sought after and the stories are being told firsthand?
I mean, it's definitely multifaceted. I'd say number one, it's, well, Japan, but then also Tohoku are, again, just kind of like, well, we don't want to talk about it. Stiff upper lip sort of thing. I feel, too, there's definitely like a well-intentioned but kind of misplaced reverence for it. Like, oh, we can see that that's like, maybe something we shouldn't touch, so we're just going to back off. Which is appreciated, but yeah, again, that just means that you're not engaging. Also, just news cycles at this point. It's 14 years ago. Who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? Right? Like, it's not like, I mean, this year I think I saw, yeah, it's just every year. In fact, there were news articles about how, oh, every year it gets just like less and less important. Yeah, like, I think pride, or like, maybe not pride, but like that stiff upper lip thing of just like not exposing yourself, right? Which is a ridiculous thing in any disaster. Like, that has nothing to do with weakness. I don't care how weak you actually might be. If you get through a disaster, like, nah, yo, like, bro, like, you just did some serious shit. So the truth and the perception, I think, are two very different things. Yeah. So it's a really good question. Like, I've spoken with, again, I won't name names, but, you know, people who are doing like their PhD in psychology, and I've brought things like this up, saying not necessarily for myself, but, you know, for people in Tohoku. Like, they don't have people to talk to. Like, all they have is the other people who were there to talk to it, and nobody wants to talk about it to each other. Because everybody was there, they already understand it, so it's kind of, you know, moot point. I don't know of any psychologist. This person that I'm thinking of, they were at, I think it was Sophia, doing their PhD and saying that they were specializing in Tohoku, like specifically like 311 victim, which I don't also like that word, but whatever. Experience or whatever. And that's the last I've heard of it, and that was like 4 years ago. So like, there's just zero critical engagement with it. Also, keep in mind, like, Tohoku and like Tokyo, like Edo, back in the day, did not have a very good relationship whatsoever, and still really don't. Especially Fukushima, particularly Aizu Wakamatsu. So yeah, it's, you know, it's cultural, it's societal, it's certainly financial, I'm sure. Like, there's a bunch of reasons why it's played out in this manner. And so you can't point at one thing and say, oh, that's why it happened. But yeah, it's annoying. I don't like it. I wrote a real harsh, more or less along these lines. I'm happy I think I said it in a much more well-spoken manner than I wrote it. But more or less just saying, like, yo, you can't, it's not that you don't understand, you being the royal you. It's that you don't understand that you can't understand. Like, that meta lack of understanding is the real problem, because that's what drives people to do that childish, like, I'm helping sort of thing, right? When, you know, you kind of don't, it's more complex than that, right?
Powerful, man. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Does China?
Oh, good question.
I mean, not to this extent, but
No, I don't think I've talked to him about it.
survived.
I mean, look, how do you, like, it's not something that it's just like, and again, too, it's like, I've got a dead brother, too, right? It's like, what happens when you tell that to people? Like, people just go, oh, I'm sorry. Like, it's kind of just like you put a wall between people, or between yourself and others when that happens, right?
Was it your only sibling?
Yeah.
Older? Younger?
Older, 3 years, died in 2008. Yeah. Yeah, and so that sucked for my parents, because only 3 years after that, they wake up to news of the town that I lived in got fucked. Right? So they were on the front page of our local newspapers as well, getting interviewed about that. Yeah. He was, what, 25?
Right.
When he died.
What happened?
Car crash.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. In a sense, it was good, because he was born with, he had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, so he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. And somehow, we ended up getting the government to outfit a car with like a scoop to put him in the driver's seat. So he could drive around with like a joystick and stuff. It wasn't his driving that killed him, it was ice. Just going down steep, curvy road, slipped, hit a phone pole. So he was doing something he wasn't, doctors when he was born anyway were like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. So in a sense, it's kind of like, well, you died doing something you weren't supposed to be able to do, so I guess that's a good way to go out. Right? But yeah, like I said, it's hard. You can't, people don't want to hear that. They don't know how to, it's not that they don't want to, but like, how do you even react to things like that?
You don't.
Exactly. So, and then, if you, because like at this point, it's really confusing. I mean, not confusing, but just like, at this point, I just default to, oh, nope, single child, only child. Which itself is sad for me, nobody else, because it's like literally just erasing the memory. So like, what do you do? Like, it's very, like that kind of stuff, that aspect of what, like the human condition, the human experience, really doesn't get, it gets talked about in the sense that we've got, like Hollywood movies that are, really pull at your heartstrings and things like that. But that's very distancing. And there's not really, there's no real way to
explore.
No, not really at all. Right? That's kind of one thing that drives me to experiences like this and whatnot. Just like getting out there and seeing what you can do.
And then I came across this quote I'll share with you. Maybe you heard it. It's from Confucius. Like, we all live two lives, and the second one begins after realizing there's only one.
That's good. That's real good. That hits hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's frustrating that, especially in Tokyo, let's bring it back to business. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of scared people. And I feel like a lot of the time, business is a really good shield to put up and say, well, no, it's a financial issue. Or like, well, I just don't have the time right now because tax season or whatever. And that to me is kind of at odds with the universe. Right? And if your business is doing it, and it's your business, and you're running it, that suggests to me that you, not your business is just a reflection of you. That suggests to me that you are having a difficult time seeing steps forward, being able to progress, being able to evolve, being able to, and change isn't always good. You have to be careful of that. And sometimes even when it's not good, that's just part of the journey and whatever. But yeah, when you see when you see dead people, you know, when you see the terminus of life, especially in like non-natural or like unexpected circumstances, that's a real big slap in the face of that's gonna, you're kind of staring at yourself, your future self. It really made, for me anyway, that really hit home. And so, all right, waterfalls it is. You know, like, yeah, let's go, sort of thing. Because otherwise, what are you going to do? What are you? Why are you even here?
Do you think there's a way to overcome that for like a, let's say, an average Joe without experiencing such a traumatic?
That's a good question. That's a hard question. What do they call those? Like peak moments or pinnacle moments or... Yeah, often traumatic moments. Yeah, I don't know how to approach that. Well, okay, so like that's actually, now that I think about it though, so I've been hosting like rural retreats recently, usually with like between 6 to 10 people, and it's, in a sense, it's part of my real estate sales funnel. Because a lot of people like daydreaming about living in rural Japan and have never been. They don't know what the fuck they would do there. They don't know what it tastes or sounds or smells like. They don't know about bugs. They don't know jack shit. And if they don't know that, then they're never going to buy. But if I take them out and show them a good time, now they've got a more visceral understanding of exactly what it is they're daydreaming about. So that's kind of very top of funnel for me. But these retreats, regardless of business intent, are also, I mean, what? It's a lot of barbecuing, a lot of communal cooking, a lot of like wild meat, you know, deer and boar and stuff like that. Get a lot of almost certainly local beer, just local everything, but you know, meat and alcohol. Those are good ones. And also paired with some sort of, I really like that word visceral experience. Sometimes that's hiking, sometimes it's bouldering, sometimes it's scuba diving, sometimes it's surfing. Maybe it's not a traumatic experience, so it's not that high. But especially with something like scuba diving, like that's a relatively extreme, especially, you know, if you come with me and we get you your license and it's your first time, that's me pushing you into a new and relatively extreme experience. Again, it's not to the level of, you know, the traumatic, perhaps. Although I've definitely seen people getting their trying to get their scuba diving license and like, oh my God, put them in the ocean. Like, you want to see ugly crying? The panic on the people's faces who first have to submerge into the ocean. Like, I feel so bad for them. But yeah, the point of that is like, yeah, you know what, man? Maybe that's me just trying to make a larger community of people that I can communicate the higher level stuff with. Because like I was saying, it's a little bit alienating. And I mean that in a very sarcastic way. It's a bit alienating to have these extreme experiences that even if you want to discuss, even if you want to share, even if you want to, you know, somehow do something with it, you just can't, right? Yeah, you can talk, but they don't get it, or like, you know, whatever. And so, you know, having those kind of analog experiences and it's very coded. I'm real big into coded language. Even made my own. You can't tell people, hey, come with me and I'll show you a fucked up situation and it'll build character for you. Right? That doesn't really work. If you call it a business retreat, then it does. It's a lot more approachable. Right?
How often do you do this? And is all year long?
Yeah, I've got a few in the works right now. I've really been interested in the Tokyo Islands, specifically Oshima, Oshima and Hachijojima. Going out there. Honestly, that's rural island life. That's not like rural mainland life. That's regally in the middle of the ocean. The night skies. Sitting around a fucking barbecue, drinking local ass beer, and staring at like the sunset or like the moon on the ocean with a bunch of like people you were aware of. They're in your circles, but you know, you're never really friends, but you're always kind of curious. Just having that, you want to talk about biz dev. The things that happen because of that situation, because of that conversation, are orders of magnitude more valuable than anything you'll ever get at the Roppongi Hills Club. Right? Having that visceral, and in a sense, like intimate, right, experience with people is, I mean, damn near invaluable, if not actually invaluable. Right. And again, I mean, honestly, that is kind of, now that I think about it, like a pared down version of the tsunami, really. I mean, straight, like, you have no idea how drunk we got every night during the tsunami. Sitting around a fire, cooking food, talking. What are we going to do? Tomorrow, who are we helping? What building are we going over to? Do we have the tools to fix that? Like, how are we going to do it? We're going to get up at 7? Let's plan this out. Right? Every fucking night. That's what we did. And so these retreats actually are really just like mimicking that. Wow. That kind of community. Because that's what it was. That was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. All of us so fucked up, so exhausted, so hard up, so homeless, so everything, like nothing was right. And yet if you sat around the dinner table, to this day, I still don't know why we had so much fucking fried chicken and whiskey. It was insane. Right? But yeah, it was like fried chicken, whiskey, and beer for like 6 weeks. It was the most unhealthy like period of my life. But yeah, those conversations, planning out. And we were all, you know, a lot of us were architects, a lot of us were carpenters, a lot of us were, you know, like people who get shit done, who built that city, right? Even Seiji, like the guy's house that we were staying at, his entire family was like the go-to place for any and all interior design, you know? So it wasn't just us like, you know, doing the whole, oh, let me help, I'm a little kid with a plastic hammer shit. It was like, oh, wait, no, we're the people who get shit done. So yeah, pass the bottle, but, you know, we're going to go here tomorrow because I know those people and they've got these resources and blah, 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 blah. Like, it made sense. That was just business planning. Is really what it was. Definitely had never thought of that before. Thank you. That's an interesting realization. You know, and that's trying to show the people the power of, again, those visceral experiences. Having like tsunami tourism is dangerous. I can't do that. Can't really predict it either. Right? But putting them in a situation where they're a little bit uncomfortable, there's some bugs, maybe you don't know how to pitch a tent, right? But just, you know, having people get together and build something as simple as like dinner and a fire, but outside of a kitchen or outside of a restaurant and outside of a city where everything is prescribed, right? And I mean, that's the wacky thing about, I guess, like modernity, really. For me, anyway, is how basic of a fucking experience is that I've just described as humans, as communal as we are, right? We've forgotten how to do that. I'd argue that's like at the core of our being, man. Like more than anything, that's human, and yet we don't do it. That's problematic, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so the band side of things, even if it's gotten better over the years, it's still difficult. It's risky, insurance, gear, this, that, and the other thing. Hotels and whatnot. But, 2016 or 2017, when I was in Seattle, had the opposite thing happen, that my Japanese band friends were saying, oh, you're in Seattle, book us an American tour. And I was like, dude, it's even more expensive and risky over here, and there's guns. Like, why would you want, like, what are you thinking? But because Seattle's so close to Vancouver in Canada, right? And the Canadian government loves international musicians. It's real easy to tour Canada, get a visa, do it proper. And so what I ended up doing is getting my Japanese friends to go tour Canada, and I'd cart Americans across the border into Vancouver. Wasn't smuggling necessarily. Right? But, so that was the solution there, which got me thinking, wait, hold up. Why bring Japan to America, or Canada, or anywhere else? Why bring the bands, which again is logistically challenging and expensive, and requires visas, even if the visas are comparatively easier to get, when you could just bring the fans on a tourist visa and sell them tickets? Don't put the band on tour, put the audience on tour. Right? And so that's what we're working on. That's what we're doing right now. Music tourism is really what it amounts to, which has never happened. I've never seen any country talk about music. Maybe like, what is it? Like Tennessee. There's some big, I should know this. Where's Elvis from? That place. Right? And so like what I do right now for Kala, or one of the things, which is proven to be very, like, quite lucrative, but not exploitative, is people don't know what to do in Japan. And especially when it comes to underground, be it metal, be it punk, be it rock, be it hip hop, be it what, just like underground. It's underground. It's kind of hard to get, your finger on. They don't know who to listen to. They don't know what shows to go to. They don't know where the venue is. They don't know what hotel to go to. Maybe they're vegan. It's metal. They're probably vegan, right? Where do I eat? What do I drink? All of these things are massive questions that just they have no resources for. And so I just put together itineraries weekly of like, here's my recommended show. Here's all of these bands that I've worked with before. Here's, anecdotes of like how I know them and blah, 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 blah. Here's links to their band camps and stuff so you can go listen to them. Here's the venue itself and a link to Google Maps and you can book it. Here's from the last show that we just went to. They were from Kakegawa and Shizuoka. They're fucking great. I'm actually wearing their t-shirt right now, Abysmo. They're fucking good. I like them a lot.
Shout out.
So just like my own commentary, because like right now, for example, something's going on in Shizuoka. Shizuoka has not been on the map. It's unsurprisingly, it's Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka. Those are the main spots. Occasionally Kyoto, occasionally Sendai, and then everything else is just kind of a crapshoot. Shizuoka never pops up, despite its proximity to Tokyo. And yet this year, like, I want to say there's like 7 new bands out of Shizuoka across genres. There's 2 new venues. They're booking shows. Not only are they booking shows in Shizuoka cities, like municipalities, which is like Numazu, Shizuoka City, Hamamatsu, but they're also starting to play further outside of Shizuoka. It's like something is going on with Shizuoka right now. Granted, it's only been, since the beginning of this year, it's only been, 3.5 months. So I don't want to yet say, like, it's locked in, but watch Shizuoka. Something's fucking going, something's in the water. Like, they got energized. Like, it's really, really interesting seeing it happen. And so then, but you go to the concert. Where do you eat? Well, here's this spot that's near the venue that's pretty good. And then here's this bar, right? That, if you want to get a reprieve from the rock and roll and a nice calm atmosphere for like a cocktail or something, go here. Here's your fucking hotel. All this shit, right? But if you don't have this information, you will not access underground, like, Japanese cultural assets. And so just this, for free, so this is like a Substack, so it's subscription for free, you'll get, my choice pick. And I've been operating in the scene for, like, basically 15 years. I'm very well regarded on Reddit. I am the go-to authority for Japanese underground rock and roll. Tokyo Metal is my handle. Like, nobody surpasses me on that. So this isn't just some guy saying, here's some shit. It's like, I'm a recognized authority on this. And so for free, you get, here's the recommendation, the flyer, here's the details on the band. So you can go to their Bandcamp and buy an album or whatever. Here's the venue. Here's the report. And then here's my commentary. Up until there is all free. But I'm specifically marketing towards international audiences who want to access Japan's underground like music assets. And so for $5 a month, you'll also get the full itinerary of where do you eat, where do you stay, like and also the archives. Then you can map out like, oh, you said that restaurant and that venue was also good last week and in this band. So now you can start much more easily understanding like how to go see all this great music, because there's so much stuff going on here. It's just terribly represented. Not again, it's not like anybody's fault, but like the fact of the matter is nobody knows, like baby metal maybe, right? But I can't stand them, sort of thing. So yeah, the music tourism is what we do with Kala. And then yeah, there's MK Ultraman, which is, whoops. And yeah, so for MK Ultraman, really what it comes down to is what? Like web design, graphic design, web dev. I mean, basically website stuff, media production, and then advisory. Like operational stuff mostly. Yeah, I know how to optimize, so. And again, I'm in like a pretty niche space, so it's not like I'm competing for very many things, which is another point that I try to make is like, dude, Red Ocean business sucks. It's not that I dislike competition, it's just like, I don't want to do it unless I have to. And like, there's that thing over there that nobody's touching. So I'm just going to go own that. You guys can fight over here about that like bone on the ground that's left over from decades of established business. But like, again, the akiya thing is a great example of that's just a totally untapped market. Nobody's really fighting for that. So why would I exert more energy for less money when I can exert less energy for more money and like more freedom as well. And like also just from a, brand building, you stand out like a motherfucker when you do stuff like that. And I think that's another thing that Japan really, like what is a brand? Granted, I'm American, right? White American. So like, I'm not a good example, but what's a Japanese brand that really stands out right now? I can't think of one. Like they're all based in Tokyo. Maybe a few are in either Kyoto or Osaka. But Uniqlo is probably the one that I would imagine most people would immediately come up with. I think the best thing you'll hear is like, oh, there's like, what is it, Uji Matcha? And it's like, dude, that's a traditional industry that as much as I respect it, I also really don't give a fuck about. Right? It's not, objectively speaking, it's not moving anything forward, right? And it's dying slowly, which I'll stop my comments on that there. But yeah, like, I mean, basically just encouraging people to go out and do, again, don't do tsunami level trauma stuff, but go scuba dive. And metaphorically, do that with your business. Go stand out a little bit. Right? I mean, that's why I love this artist, right? Tetsunori Kawaraya. He's a local guy. I think the stuff that he makes is absolutely mind-bending. And I've got like a whole bunch of his shit. I haven't seen Japanese art like that for, I don't know, ever. Something like that. And seeing that is just like, holy shit, finally, like here's like energetic Japan. And I won't say revitalized because rural Japan was never vital in the first place. So what revitalization is there? It's vitalization. It's not revitalization, right? And so if there aren't kind of audacious people like Tetsunori, or, I mean, again, I'm not Japanese, but like myself, and people just going out there and making an example of, yo, here, look at it at a different angle, use a different tool, like reapply something, take a step back, meditate on it, whatever, right? Go do new stuff. right? That hope, like for example, I make my own kombucha, right? But kombucha is fermented tea, right? And so I make my own. I'm actually talking with a brewery down the street about collaborating with them to make production level my kombucha. But this I use, so because I travel around a lot for akiya real estate business, that means I'm going to rural Japan, which means it's Japan. No matter where you go, there's like different strains of tea, right? And so I'm making all of my kombucha using local strains of Japanese green tea, which is, in my mind, a very sexy version of green tea. Whereas the whole let's all be very quiet and sit on our knees in a temple and stir it around a little bit and then sip it slowly, but only in 3 sips. Okay, it's culture, I get it. It's so, don't get rid of that. Don't get rid of that. That's fine. But again, that's what teenager is amped up about fucking tea ceremony. I hope none of them, But kombucha, oh my God, it's bubbly and it's ice cold and it's refreshing and it's new and it's kind of there's a bit of kaigai in it, but it's also using Japanese local products. That's the sort of shit that I want to see.
I don't know why, but your story reminds me of Liquid Death.
Yeah. As much as I think I hate Liquid Death, as a metalhead, that fucking guy is smart as shit. Right? He totally hijacked the metal thing, but to mad success. Right? But yeah, you're right. It's very similar. So yeah, my whole thing is, I really want to be like Ketchum kombucha or whatever. Because again, people want it. On Reddit, people talk about it all the time. Occasionally I post, but then somebody eventually will be like, well, you don't have a license, so that might kill somebody. You don't need a license to do anything. You just need to know somebody who has a license and work with them. That's the same thing that I do with real estate. I just partner with licensed agents. And then depending on where the area the client wants, then, I'd go to that guy or that guy or that guy. But then there's a whole bunch of work that they don't want to do because they don't get paid through the licensed real estate agent business model. So that's where I come in and get my cut, right? So it's basically the business models. So many business models here just are dated and don't make sense anymore, but they haven't changed. So being able to, that's something that, there's a lot of arbitrage involved in that. Of just realizing, oh, here's an inefficiency. Let's just insert myself there and then make it better.
Okay, I see. So you're finding these agents in akiya areas, and what you're doing is you're bringing them to customers.
Ultimately, yeah. Right. But there's a lot of work that they don't want to, because again, if you think about most agents, number one, they get paid 3% commission upon sale. That gets paid out by the buyer, right? For rural properties especially, that doesn't make any sense at all because they're cheap and there's a whole lot of work that goes into actually making those, even determining if you want to buy it in the first place. And so even if they do all of the work and sell it, what do you make? $2,000 or something. It's totally not worth their time. So they don't want to do it. And so I come in, I basically charge a premium for all the work, for me to do all of the work that the agents don't want to do, such that the buyer ultimately can arrive at the conclusion that they do want to buy, and then just go to the agent and say, hey, I've already primed them, they're good to go. Just do the paperwork and make your $2,000 or whatever. Right? So it's just efficiencies. And then here's my band, Worship Pain. So this is me, that's the drummer. He and I also actually do kala together. He's a designer. And so he and I are American, our bassist vocalist is Canadian, and then our lead guitarist is Australian, so it's not Japanese at all. And our on Bandcamp, our newest album, Starless Endless. And yeah, it's just a whole lot of fun. Great way to release. It's kind of like kickboxing, honestly. Heavy metal is real good stress release. Right. But I mean, it's also fun too because like we get to. So like last weekend at our last show, for the sake of the audience, like Chai down in Kyoto makes this totally excellent hot sauce, right? That
What's it called?
His hot sauce, habaneros, right? And then, but since Chai is also a metalhead, I was like, wait a minute, dude, you make like some really spicy hot sauce. Your hot sauce is really hot, and our band's name is Worship Pain, and so I think we should make pain sauce. And so we made pain sauce. There it is. Worship Pain's pain sauce. Which is habaneros. Right? And we just rebranded it, but it's like, yeah, so that's the first go at it. I want to work with him on making a specific us. But it's sold so fucking well. But yeah, doing band brand hot sauce, band brand beer. Those are kind of the two sort of out there things that we do. But yeah, having a band is like just a great way to just like do stuff. Try things, right? It gives you an excuse. Right.
Okay. So, first wrap-up question. I ask every guest. What's your favorite Japanese food or restaurant?
Manju.
What's your favorite Japanese word or phrase?
Also a tough one because for a while it was komorebi, but then that got like totally hijacked by everybody. Yeah, I don't think I have one right now.
What do you miss about home?
Family. I'm trying seriously, minus family. I'm trying to think of something that I miss about home. You're not talking about like nostalgia. You're talking about like living in the States, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I tried going back, right, to Seattle.
Right, 2 stints.
Yeah, right. And then that was just like, what the fuck is going on? I woke up in a crime scene. My entire apartment was surrounded by like crime tape and like 14, 15 cruisers. And that was like 4 a.m. And I didn't know what was going on, so I just went back to bed. And then I got up for work, and they were still there. And I left my apartment, straight up was within the parameter of the crime scene tape with my bike. I was just like, okay, let me out. Like, it's not me. Went to work, and sometime around lunch, one of my coworkers finally mentioned, like, oh, did you hear about the hostages? I was like, no, what about the hostages? I was like, and they were like, yeah, up in Capitol Hill, there's like this ex-cop and military guy who took his entire family hostage in the apartment. I was like, what street was that on? And they were like, Boren. I was like, I live on Boren. So yeah, some fucking disgruntled like cop with a bunch of machine guns or whatever was holding his family at gunpoint, like just right across the street from. Like, I don't want that. Oh, I was also in a school shooting. Well, almost. He was a racist sniper who was shooting around our school and killed 4 Jews and 3 Koreans, I believe. Yeah, and we were in middle school, I think 7th grade. So we were under our desks for like 5 hours or something like that as he was rampaging. What was it? Not Baumkuchen. Baumhammer. Yes, Richard Baumhammer.
What was your lowest point while living in Japan?
Wasn't the tsunami, strangely enough. Teaching's total shit. Actually, yeah, you know what? Teaching. Teaching was the lowest point. Not that I didn't like the kids or anything. The money's garbage. The job is garbage. It doesn't do anything. It's soul crushing. It peddles false hope. Yeah, teaching is meaningless. Yeah. Teaching doesn't if that, like serious, like if the tsunami hadn't happened, I might still be teaching. I don't know.
I was gonna ask you.
Right. Seriously, that put me on a completely different trajectory.
Any party message for this channel? Datsusara Gaijin.
Yeah, go do it. Stop, stop letting other people dictate what it is you want to pursue. Like, it's not easy. It's not without risk. It's not, oftentimes it's not even fun. But just go get it. Stop letting other people dictate what your life is going to be, because you're going to die. But seriously, you're going to die, so you might as well do something that kicks ass and that you made happen, and not that you assisted somebody else in making happen. Right? Just go get it. Like, that's the fucking point. YOLO. Straight up.
One last thing.
Yep.
So the previous guest, he's big into crypto. That's all he does.
Oh, I did notice that.
So he's paid for a gift that you could choose to accept.
Right.
Do you have a cold wallet?
Yep.
Well.
Oh, I got another. Oh, that's a good one. What is it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Maybe I should have just let you.
That's all right. Oh, cool. Okay, Trezor, yeah. I use the other one. I've actually been curious about Trezor for a while. I just haven't bothered. Awesome.